Welcome to the IoT Meetup and my presentation on System on Modules. These have evolved quite a bit in just the past 6 months, and in my own personal study for our business, I was so overwhelmed at the new offerings and the choices, I decided to make this into a presentation and share it with everybody, because it's been an education for me, and I think a significant a stair step for all of us. Just a little levity here. I love Dilbert. I only read 2 things in the newspaper, my horoscope and Dilbert. The rest of it I scrap. But the CEO guy says, I want to be more visionary than Elon Musk. All he does is build spaceships and electric cars. I want to build me an electric rocket ship full of robots that can colonize other worlds. Which planet should we do first? And Dilbert says, well, it depends on how long the power cord is. And so, some reporter asked Elon Musk, why aren't his rockets electric powered like the cars? It has to do with thrust. But to Elon Musk's credit, and they were quiet about this, after the disaster they had of the $200 million satellite, which was insured, that was destroyed on the launch pad in September, they didn't announce this launch that they did this past weekend until it was over with successfully. Then we heard about it. But I don't blame them for, wanting to be quiet and not causing too much attention should they have a second disaster. But this is really, I'm overwhelmed by this, that they launched 10 Iridium satellites. These are satellite cell phone networks. There'll be 45 of them around the globe to cover the whole planet. But 10 of them went up in one Falcon rocket, and the booster stage returned in a vertical launch to the ship they had parked off the California coast. So a successful launch.
Amazing. Totally
this
amazing.
Past Saturday morning. We are living in a science fiction reality.
Right. Totally amazing.
I'm impressed by this. So anyway, kudos to SpaceX and Elon Musk, and I don't mind Dilbert ribbing him along a little bit. Our door prize question, anyone blurt out, what is that thing?
Commodore 64.
VIC-20? Okay.
Close.
I've got a
Thank you.
thumb drive there. Now, I stole this from the Amsterdam IoT Club that visited us this past fall, and I don't know why this is auto-advancing, but yeah, we'll get past that.
Alexa, stop it.
Yes. I love that little cartoon at the top there, kind of the 2 mentalities that we see in business today. We shouldn't do anything new, too dangerous, the conservative corporate mentality. And for a startup that's trying to carve out market space, this is correct. We shouldn't do anything old, too dangerous. So there's a lot of truism to that. Hopefully we're all doing new stuff. Okay. Scrolled all the way through. Huh.
Like you're going in a circle.
Yeah. I'll get there. Back to the space bar. Okay. So, this Tesla, this is self-induced, the driver did this. But I'm curious about, this picture made me curious about what is inside the Tesla. And I did a little bit of research on it because I consider the automobile is the ultimate IoT device, and the Tesla is kind of the best example of that in terms of computerization of the car. What powers this thing? It's 4 NVIDIA Tegra 3 Cortex A9 quad ARM processors at 1.6 gigahertz. The reason there are 4 of them in there, one of them is dedicated to the GPS navigation system. One is dedicated to the powertrain electronics, the battery and the motor. One is dedicated to the flight control systems of the brakes and the drive-by-wire and the self-navigation systems, and one is dedicated to the entertainment system. So they segregated and that was a very good choice. 5 years ago, in 2011, when they chose the NVIDIA Tegra, 4 ARM cores at 1.6 gigahertz, that was very much state-of-the-art at the time, and is still holding its own today. Although there's some other parallel offerings, they made a good choice with NVIDIA as a CPU partner, probably, I think in part because of NVIDIA's cooperation with the Department of Energy to build these multi-core supercomputers with best practices. The operating system, there is no operating system. The whole thing is written in machine code. In each of these processors, they have a boot sequence for either a warm or cold power-up, a microkernel that does a carousel of the different services, and in between each of the services there's a external heartbeat monitor that's pulled between each of the services, and then it just comes back around with fixed clock cycles for each of the services, and then they just bought an off-the-shelf TCP/IP stack for the communications layer. But because they had the resources, the whole thing is written in machine code for each of these services. So that's how they pulled it off. NVIDIA Tegra 3 and a pretty concerted coding project. I can't imagine anything more rock solid and stable than that.
You mean assembly, not machine code, right?
Yes. So these are some of just a short list of the SOMs that we're talking about tonight. The Intel Joule and the Intel Edison. The Edison has just come out this past fall. The Joule's been out for about a year. The Intel Edison at $49 now from a DigiKey or Adafruit, pretty impressive. That is a Celeron equivalent core processor, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, SATA interface, all of your GPIO and serial connections on something, and I have a picture of it here, on something that's pretty small and powerful to have a x86 architecture in it. Now, of course, there's a dozen different companies making different ARM variants. Qualcomm, now NXP, now Qualcomm, kind of leading the pack there in what we see in the marketplace. What impressed me and took me down this path initially was the Omega 2 by Onion and the Next Thing by, or the Chip Pro by Next Thing. I did not quite complete my comparison chart before my computer with 40 windows open on my screen crashed this morning. But I got most of the comparative specs in my head here, so we'll get to it as we get to them. There is a picture of the Edison at the top. That is smaller than a business card, and the Joule is even smaller than that, but quite a price differential between the two for both being x86 and at 1.4, 1.6 gigahertz. You can get up to 16 gig of ROM on that and 4 gig of RAM. There's a lot of variations on the RAM and ROM that you can put into it. Now, this is my favorite. A lot of us who have come from the Arduino world have fallen in love with the ESP 8266 being code equivalent. Even though it only has one analog pin compared to an Arduino, you can do everything else with it, and it runs at 80 megahertz rather than 16 megahertz. That's for the 8266. The only shortcoming with it is that it did Wi-Fi, not Bluetooth. Well, when this first came out, I was kind of on the fence about it, but just since Christmas, all of the mainstream suppliers, SparkFun, Adafruit, DigiKey, have all come out with FCC certified versions of the ESP32, which includes Bluetooth on the same module. And they all have that WROOM suffix, which is has to do with the can and the certification over the parts underneath the can. So, also $3.95. You can buy this in quantity 1 for $3.95. It uses an evolution of the tin silica processor. Instead of the L106, it's now called an LX6, runs at 240 megahertz instead of 80 megahertz. And also runs in the Arduino development environment. So a vast universe of existing code can run on this device. So for $4 and to have 2 radios on it, it's kind of a mind blower. To me, this changes the world. That whole thing is the size of a large postage stamp. It does have either a bump mount, or you can get it with pins coming out of the bottom, so it goes into a daughter board or power board that it can sit on top of, just for easier connectivity. But for a dedicated product, you would just want to melt these solder bumps right onto a larger board where your connectors live. So I think this is going to continue to displace the Arduino, just because of the radio on board and the ability to run that code at 240 megahertz instead of 16 megahertz. Now, this has come out in India, the Verisite. This uses either the NXP or there's Qualcomm variants of the same part. This is full bore. I like it being on the dip connector too, so that you can take it in and out of a memory style socket. Quad core, HDMI 4K output, 16 gig of ROM, 1 gig of RAM on board is a typical configuration. And here again, certified Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on board. In quantity, that part can be had for about $40 through Arrow.
How big is that?
So did, so laptop memory stick?
About 2.5 inches wide. This one's even smaller. This one uses the Qualcomm Snapdragon.
What was the price on that one?
The list price on, I'm sorry, it says 42, that's in quantity. And Arrow can source this part. From Verisite also, there's the, that was the NXP. There's an even smaller one, doesn't have the SOM connector on it, but even smaller with similar horsepower. Quad core Snapdragon. Here's another Snapdragon variation, and they do this in all 3 levels of the Qualcomm offering, the 410, the 600, and the 820. Here again, 4K video, all kinds of I/O on board, and certified Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built in.
You said that's certified?
Yes.
It has a pinnacle.
It's available both ways.
Certified, probably not with the telemeters.
Right, that depends on that final configuration, as we know. This is out of India as well, so not as bad as the Chinese, but I think the Indians might be good at skirting what's legal and not legal there, just pushing the technology. Now, I'm impressed by this part also. This is by 3 guys out of San Mateo, California. They launched this with a Indiegogo campaign. This uses a the all-winner, what used to be called the A13, relabeled the R8. They package it with half a gig of DDR underneath that little GR8 can there and call it a GR8. Interestingly enough, Allwinner, which is a Chinese chip manufacturer, is actually the #2 tablet manufacturer, all these low-cost Android tablets with these second-tier names, Emerson, Polaroid, and the like that you can buy over at the Best Buy and Big Lots, they're all made by Allwinner. Allwinner is the #2 tablet company in the world, and the A13, also called the R8, is their most powerful processor, and that's what's on this tiny board. If we look at the back side of it, no, that's not it. If you look at the back side of it, there's the Toshiba, that's 8 gig of flash there on the back. And here again, this includes the radio. The initial price of this was announced at $9 in their Indiegogo campaign, but it turns out that the final delivered product is $16. Interestingly enough, this just started shipping the week after Christmas, and it's in the hands of a few press reporters. So it's just now coming to market. Well, for $16, 2 radios, 8 gig of flash, and an ARM processor, this is a value at $16. This is almost overpowered. Now, it does have HDMI or VGA output, but that's only with a expansion board that it sits on top of, which has some additional video drivers. So for a headless IoT application, where you just want to serve up web pages but not have a local monitor, this wins. Now, there's another product just now. This was executed in a Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign that overfunded. They wanted to raise $50,000, and they raised $450,000. A company in Canada called Onion. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth in this. There's the size of it compared to a cherry. This is also not much bigger than a postage stamp. That includes a, what is the processor in that thing? It's a MIPS processor. It's a MIPS processor at 580 megahertz. That's in my comparison chart. So here again, not an underpowered device. There's a little video here. Let's see if I can run it. This tells us about the Onion Omega 2, which is shipping. I ordered some, and they sent me an email to be shipping before the month's out. What is going on? Maybe I'm not connected?
There is an open Wi-Fi.
Okay, I'm gonna blame that on Spectrum, FKA, Time Warner. Of course, it's locked up. I apologize. Go ahead, exit that. Yeah, I'm gonna close the program and go back. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, those are the SOM modules. They're more powerful than ever, cheaper than ever. I'm impressed by, again, the ESP32, the next thing, GR8, and the Onion Omega seem to have it all figured out. I don't know why you would want to develop a small board computer or an SOM with these in the market today. I think this is very empowering for us to now take this technology and put it in our device. GR8, next thing, GR8. And I'll make the presentation available today and put it on the website late tonight. Now, there's another class of devices that have just come into the market, and these are packaged, finished good devices. This Gigabyte Bricks has been in the marketplace for about 8 months now, and I just caught on to it. They've come down in price. They were about $150. I got this one and searched around for $80. It's got an Intel 1.6 gigahertz Pentium processor in it, 4 USB ports, HDMI, VGA, composite video, stereo audio in and out, and that's all the I/O. Runs on a 5-volt power supply. The desktop, the tower, these are a thing of the past now. $80 for that. Now that was bare bones, without memory. It uses a laptop memory stick. And there's enough room in there for and a bracket for a 2.5-inch hard drive. So that's what computers have come down to, at least in the x86 space. What I think is still going to supersede this is a new class of device that really come on. They were kind of late. They hit after the Christmas market, but I've got several of them sampling. These are called Android TV boxes. Here's the tiniest one called a Dolomite. 2 USB ports, micro SD slot, HDMI out, gigabit Ethernet, also gigabit Ethernet on the Intel box. $27, and this is running a Rock chip quad-core ARM. So you could run. It comes pre-installed with Android 4.4 or Android 6 on it, and there's 2 versions of the Android desktop now that they have for these devices called Kodi and Marshmallow. Its main intention is just to run streaming media devices of YouTube, Netflix, Roku, to your television. So it's the equivalent of a Google Chromecast stick or a Amazon Fire Stick in a little box that's a little more open. So hopefully we can dig into this and install some other apps and make it do more and gain access to those USB ports. $27. Even though the SOM modules are compelling at their low price, if I'm going to make a low to medium quality IoT project and need FCC certification and packaging that's ready to go, this little device is going to fill a lot of niches. There are some different flavors. Here's one that uses a Atmel a quad-core ARM processor. Similar configuration, 2 USB ports, micro SD, HDMI, analog video and audio, Ethernet, and all of these devices, even the Intel, all have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built in. That's been my constraint for this whole presentation. If it doesn't contain both radios, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, which I think are going to be a presumption for most, at least consumer devices in the future, that you need both radio links, Bluetooth to your smartphone, Wi-Fi to the backhaul, that you want both radios. Yes?
Wi-Fi they have, the 1802 Wi-Fi they have, the
Yeah, BGN. All of these are BGN. And it makes sense to me that if Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are both at 2.4 gigahertz, that the analog receiver and front-end filters there and the output stage and the power amplifier are all the same, so that at the physical layer it's the same. It's just differences in the logical layer. So it makes sense that the radio should do both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Now there's one more box. This uses a Amlogic 905, and I said Atmel, I meant to say Amlogic on this. This is just a notch up over the other one. 1.6 gigahertz, 4 USB ports, full-size SD slot, could boot from the SD slot, which you would want to do. HDMI, analog video, really just a little bit larger package, and it ups the number of USB ports from 2 to 4. And those are full-size USB ports.
Is that running Android too?
This is running Android 6.
Oh, I meant it.
Yeah, as well, yes.
As well.
This was a little bit more money. This one was $45. But still, just a little bit more money. This contains a, it's either, I forget, it's either a rock chip or a ham logic ARM processor as well. This for $57. Of course, all of these have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Gives me, again, 4 USB ports. But this bundle came with a mouse and a keyboard. So for $57, this is a complete computer with the peripheral items. And it came with this metal bracket. Came with it. It'll snap into this metal bracket. This metal bracket has, the centers here are the VESA monitor centers, so this can bolt right on the back of your monitor, and the whole PC hangs on the back of the monitor.
And what is that called? What's the name of that?
These are all called Android TV boxes.
What brand is that? I guess it's a brand.
Oh, yeah, I love the name of both of these are made by a company called Mostfeel. Mostfeel, that kind of a Chinese name. It has the most good feel to it.
You can just Google it on eBay and you can find a ton of those things. I mean,
Yeah, they all seem to be coming out of the same Chinese factory or design. Even there's a lot of similarity between these two different brand devices here.
And those that are Android boxes, do they run only Android, or can they also run just plain Linux?
This one is touted to run Android or Linux. The one with the full-size SD card that you can boot up. So you would create a live Linux version that would run from the SD card. I imagine, I don't know where it is now in terms of the development tools, I imagine some smart kids in Eastern Europe are going to figure out some tools to break the Android bootloader and dig in a little deeper and reflash the ROM. So I have some pictures of these devices. I don't have one of these. Here's the same thing. Kodi is, again, their simplest desktop, which contains all these streaming video and social media apps built in. That one includes a HD camera, and it's nothing lame on the processor, 1.5 gigahertz Cortex A7 on that. That one is designed, rather than hanging on the back of the monitor, you see it clips right on top of the monitor so that you can run your video cam there, or even it comes with an app for home security where it sees movement in the room, it'll wake up and send you some pictures of what's going on in your house while you're not there. There's the Mostfeel. When I ordered this, I thought I was getting that wireless keyboard, and it came with this wired keyboard. I'm happy. Now I don't have one of these. This is really pretty impressive. This just has come to market as well. The top CX919, and of course it's available in some other Chinese brands and names, but they all look either identical or similar to this. This, like the Chromecast dongle from Google and the Amazon Fire Stick, plug into the HDMI port, but you have 5 volts available on the HDMI port. So the HDMI port, not only the video in, it's the DC out that powers the device. This device for $49 includes 2 gig of RAM, 16 gig of flash, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and the video out, and the antenna for $49. It's a complete PC on a stick.
what is, I'm sorry, I missed, you said what TF is, I'm sure, but I'm.
TF is the new term for micro SD. I don't know what it stands for. It's identical. TF means micro SD.
Have you tried the Chromecast?
I have.
I find that they're hot. They really run pretty hot. I don't know if they've been improving, but I wonder about that thing, like how hot that thing is.
There's a lot going in. A quad-core A9 and
Yeah.
16 gig of flash. Hopefully there's a couple amps available on that HDMI port. So we'll probably see more of these, for a low quantity IoT project where you do need a local monitor. this is a complete solution, and again, FCC certified. Now, I'm of course have a love for electric cars. I believe that I told you about what's inside the Tesla after doing some research. And I believe that electric cars are gonna be the smartest things in our life. Our homes are getting smarter, our smartphones are getting smarter, but the car contains multiple computer and communication systems, and it really represents that physical place of convergence where technology is advancing. This is the sole reason that Qualcomm is buying NXP, that bought Freescale, that evolved from Motorola. That one company controls used to be 80% 2 decades ago. They still control 40% of the automotive electronics company. This is why Qualcomm is buying NXP. They see the car as the next space of expansion and opportunity.
The car also contains us, so we want it to be the smartest thing as well as we're riding around inside. Right?
Yes, and several different female voices to choose from. Okay, we've got another door prize question. Name the actress and the name of the character.
Montgomery.
Elizabeth Montgomery, what's the name of the character?
That was
Serena.
Steve and Serena, yeah, that was the
Serena.
sister of Bewitched.
Sabrina.
Sabrina.
Sabrina? I think Sabrina. Am I reading? This is the evil cousin of Samantha, the good witch. This is the evil black witch. You already won one. You're disqualified.
No, I was just guessing the name.
Okay.
It's Serena.
Yes.
Serena.
No, it's Sabrina.
Anyway.
It's me in the morning.
Yes. I've got some URL links at the end of the presentation if you want to learn more. And that's systems on modules. It's evolved quite a bit. And again, the ones that impress me, the ESP32 has come to market, certified from several vendors in recent months since Thanksgiving. And the other two, the next thing, the Great and the Onion Omega, will be shipping this month. All of those represent significant advances with more than adequate processor and 2 radios on something the size of a postage stamp.
So I noticed you didn't mention Raspberry Pi 3 at all here.
Or Zero.
Huh?
Or the Raspberry Pi
Well, I
Zero.
mean, 3 specifically because it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in it.
I consider that to be a single board computer, not a system on module.
Why is that?
Just by the size of it, the connectors that are on board. The connectors are malplaced, still with the connectors on all 4 sides. By the time you integrate that in a product, you got a rat's nest of wires coming out. It's okay for a hobbyist or experimental device on a lab bench where you're learning, but in terms of being integrated into a finished good product, I don't think the Raspberry Pi is the right form factor.
And then we have industrial pies, and we just released the industrial Pi 3, which is a sodium pie.
Yeah.
Sodium.
It's on the module.
Okay, so there's been a call for a change in form factor, so it can be better integrated into finished good products, and it has to do with that interface from the board to the connectors. How do you do that in best practices and make it fit in your larger enclosure?
The Raspberry Pi Foundation specifically rejects industrial use of the standard pies. They want you to use this industrial module.
Yeah, it looks like that.
It looks a lot like that, yeah.
And it makes sense to me, a utility or an automotive manufacturer, aerospace manufacturer would get fired if somebody used a $5 or $35 Raspberry Pi in a mission critical system. It's worth spending a little bit more money.
One thing I was wondering, these, the devices that come preloaded with Android,
Yes.
how easy are they to upgrade? 'Cause
I don't know yet. I know that the one device, the NetBox, they call it here, this is NetPC, which was, I think, the best, most feature-rich of the Android boxes, separated from the Intel Gigabyte. That this one can boot from the SD card. So then you can transcend the operating system with your own operating system.
because on a Android 4, it's got some pretty serious security holes. And I'm a software guy. I just get really nervous about things connected to the internet that you can't update, you know, especially OS stuff.
Well, the devices that I've shown today either come with Android 4.4 or Android 6. I don't know what happened to Android 5. They seem to skip that number in the middle. How much it's locked down today, I don't know. There's always some third-party tools to work around that, and I would think those that can boot from the SD card, then booting with Linux or some other tool set is the back door into the device to reflash its internal flash.
Seems like there'd be a price point at which the security concerns would start to go up.
Well, it's the cost benefit thing, you know. You know,
And maybe that's a contradiction. I talked about spending more money on mission critical devices.
Well, no,
These are really, these Android TV boxes, as cheap as they
I'm getting.
are consumer boxes.
Yeah.
Can they be adapted to these industrial and machine-to-machine applications? I believe they can. We'll see. The fact that they're Wi-Fi, that FCC certified and prepackaged and run just on 5 volts, it seems like they're ready to go to achieve some small to medium IoT applications. If it's a larger quantity, then you want to spin a SOM module onto your own board. Let's see if I can play that video. I'm gonna just cut and paste it and put it in the browser. I think is the way to do it.
You guys might be interested. The FTC has a competition, or more like a bounty, for suggestions on making IoT devices updatable in homes.
Yeah, like updating the ROM and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Or secure field update, in-use update.
And who is that?
FTC, Federal Trade Commission.
You know, another problem I've seen too is, I don't know if this does exactly, but counterfeits, like FTDI chips. You know,
Oh, yeah, I
come,
agree with that,
yeah, like there are counterfeit chips running around all the time. And, you know, if you get this particular component, it may or may not be, you know, FCC legal and all that. So.
Well, we don't have a PA in here. There is sound on this. I don't know if everybody can hear this. Let's be quiet and just straighten to listen.
And this is which company?
This is Onion. The Canadian. That's or 9 with the SD card slot, which I think you would want.
And so, from a battery perspective, you can buy a little board and put what kind of battery on it, get it, what kind of like, I mean, you know, what point size battery will power that thing for how long. So that's a different prompt for the boot than one of those little batteries.
It's standby powers 400 microamps, so I guess you can figure that out. depending on your batteries.
I'm sure it's a couple of watts from, you know, use a big battery if you're gonna do nothing.
Hey, Dan, where does the particle photon fit in your world today?
I don't know, it seems like the particles lost some momentum. I know David spoke to it about 6 months ago. Where are you at on the particle? Have you moved on?
No, I use a particle, in fact, I talked to the VP of product at Particle Friday. They're doing great, they're doing gangbusters with it, selling them ridiculously.
And does it have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on board?
No, it's just Wi-Fi.
Just Wi-Fi. And what kind of processor, what speed?
It's an ARM Cortex I can't
In
remember.
0 or M4?
I think it's 4, it's at 240 megahertz, I think. It's a nice little thing. You buy a particle, it's $10 in small quantity even for the module, the calculated module. And they have the cloud services included in the price. So you have their centralized servers and connectivity for application development without having to supply your own server. That's where they want to make their money, is in that side. So if you have less than 50,000 customers, something like that, it's better to use their cloud services than your own. Otherwise, everything is open, so you can take it and do it yourself. So I use a particle photon and a product I'm developing, and I know others are using it as well. So it's not a bad platform.
And I guess the reason I want to say oversighted, I listed it there at the beginning. It doesn't have Bluetooth,
Sure,
which was my
remember you saying that.
criteria to kind of narrow these next generation SOMs of having 2 radios on board. But I would say for most applications, you can get by with Wi-Fi and not the Bluetooth if you are not counting on a direct to smartphone connectivity, but
And there's a lot of options, you know, the photon being Wi-Fi is, you know, higher end because of the cloud services. I mean, that's where it really looks like. And then below that is a bunch of Wi-Fi only selections, you know, you can get for $5 and even cheaper.
ESPs.
Yeah. With various, you know, MCU options.
yeah, I found quite a few
Yeah.
what I call prior generation things that are 1 to more than 2 years old that are microprocessor and Wi-Fi in small postage stamp size form factors, but
On the particle, I don't recommend their cloud development environment. And I don't even like their desktop development environment. I just use this external editor and only use their tools to do makes. And the makes are done by sending all your files up to the cloud, where they compile and send down the binary, or they directly deliver it to the unit. So that works good.
so that's SOM, Systems on Modules. I imagine a year from now it'll be a whole new story.
And you'll be back here doing this again.
Yeah, really.
We're living in St. Petersburg, Russia. Thank you guys very much for coming.